Welcome to Mindshock. This is your host, Bruce McGuire, and this is the long-awaited Flat Earth Q&A. A lot of Mindshock listeners are fascinated by this topic. Might actually be my pick for the best topic to actually develop logic and reason. Regardless of what the truth is, obviously Mindshock is all about the logical processes and the argumentation itself, not jumping to conclusions or defending a position for the sake of defending a position, because obviously, as the false dichotomy logical fallacy dictates, truth might not be column A or column B. Might be another column, might be one of many known columns, might be an as of yet undiscovered column. So that is what we will be discussing today. Flat Earth Q&A. I will attempt to answer any and all questions regarding the various different models of the Earth, particularly the Flat Earth model. Again, not necessarily jumping to any conclusions. Obviously, the motto is here. The only thing we know for sure is that we don't know anything for sure. And I'm not even sure we're sure about that. But anyway, we will be looking at, taking common questions, no doubt. There's still people out there that are new. They actually don't even know what the flat earthers are claiming, let alone being able to refute the claims of the flat earthers in any way. And the globe earthers, at least in public debates, obviously extremely silly goofs out there. One of my theories is all of the intelligent heliocentric globe proponents are just hanging back and laughing so hard they don't want to interrupt the comedy stream of these globe earthers humiliating themselves, even if the earth really is a heliocentric globe. Again, I do not claim anything is true or untrue. I will just be answering questions in a logical fashion on what is or isn't a logically consistent argumentation for any line of inquiry, whether it's flat Earth or globe Earth. So that is what we will be doing in today's Q&A. If you find the podcast interesting and informative, you could help support us. You can donate to our PayPal. Just check the link in the description. You can accompany a comment of a request for a logical analysis or topic to cover. Obviously, any and all donations go forward to bringing about more content to help bring logic and reason back to a world where it is quickly going extinct, obviously. For anybody who doesn't believe that, just look at a flat earth debate. Regardless of the sides, there's fallacies all over the place. You could also become a YouTube member right here on YouTube for access to exclusive streams and chats. Make sure to subscribe, like, and share Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, Patreon. Patrons do get priority for case topic, logical analysis, co-podcaster requests. You could also be a guest on the podcast depending on your tier. Questions, comments, theories, thoughts, suggestions, rebuttals, debunkings of any kind, leave them in the comment section. So, what kind of question should we start with? So, first of all, I will go over that what a lot of heliocentric globe earthers are not willing to even admit due to mental weakness, mental disability, the Dunning-Kruger effect, mass triggering, what have you, is that it actually is very difficult to argue for the shape of the earth, at least without defaulting to faith and fallacy, regardless of what the true model is. So it's kind of weird because a lot of these triggered goofs, they're not even willing to admit that it's actually not a simple conversation. Because if it were, I mean, this wouldn't even be discussed anyway. I mean, is anybody discussing whether cars are real? The great car conspiracy. If you haven't checked out my podcast on the car conspiracy, I mean, there could be people out there who are claiming cars don't exist. But the reason there aren't entire channels dedicated to not only that theory, but debunking that theory, is that it's because it's very easy to argue empirically. Maybe not for people living in remote jungles, but they're not on the internet anyway, so they're not anybody with internet access. It's a very easy conversation regarding whether or not cars exist. Now, pertaining to the flat earth model, it's actually quite difficult. It's actually quite difficult to make arguments without presuppositions. I mean, 99% of everything being argued is all just a stack of fallacies. Circular reasoning fallacies, begging the question fallacies, straw man fallacies, because even if you have each continent mapped quite well, which is a big if, I mean, obviously on a local scale, people know where they're going around, or even on a semi-local scale, like private pilots with private jets doing, a couple 100-mile flights, maybe a 1,000 miles. They can kind of know where everything is in relation to each other on a local scale. But how many people are doing a single flight without landing, where they're seeing not only all the continents, but multiple times so that they can verify the distance of each continent from each other continent? And not only that, because that is kind of sort of done in the Northern Hemisphere, sort of. I mean, most people live in the Northern Hemisphere. Most of the flights in general are in the Northern Hemisphere. So that's kind of sort of done in the Northern Hemisphere already, with pilots verifying, to a certain extent, line of sight. You have people on the ground who can verify that the planes flying overhead are going where they're purported to be going if they know someone on the flight or are in contact with them, GPS tracking, whatever. Now, where it gets weird, of course, is the Southern Hemisphere, because if you haven't verified that Antarctica is indeed an island of a purported 12,000 miles circumference, approximately, how would you know where the other continents are, South America, Africa, Australia, in relation to this supposed continent of Antarctica, if it all hasn't been verified? Now, for example, Iceland has been verified, or what we call Iceland, what anybody calls Iceland. So flights flying over Iceland to New York, London, whatever, just in the general area, you have ships passing by. There's a certain amount of empirical verification going on in the Northern Hemisphere that is not going on in the Southern Hemisphere in relation to Antarctica. And I mean, it all comes down to Antarctica. I mean, people think, obviously, there could be a lot of different conspiracies in Antarctica. I just did an Antarctica stream pretty recently. Check it out if you haven't already. Just a lot of unanswered questions about Antarctica, but the shape of the Earth, actually, everything goes back to Antarctica. And I will repeat my way to sort of prove the shape of the Earth that I've mentioned on a few other podcasts. I'll leave that for the end unless someone asks it first, because I've repeated it so many times already. But I believe I have a way to test this and the distance of the continents in relation to each other and Antarctica in real time with multiple line-of-sight verifications and 360 cameras. Now, why this hasn't already been done is, I mean, that's a big question. All right, so we got Justin Johnson in the house, Christopher in the house. How you guys doing? How do you guys want to start this off? Basic questions, advanced questions, psychology questions in relation to flat Earth. And as I always say, logic and psychology are linked. And flat Earth is a fantastic topic to demonstrate that, to demonstrate all of these psychological factors in logical processing or lack thereof. I am kind of curious as to what kind of questions. I mean, I'm anticipating a lot of questions on what Bruce McGuire believes. See, in the realm of logic, it's not about belief. There's no reason to believe anything. You just look at the evidence. If there's not enough data, You don't jump to any belief. Why would you? That's kind of silly. Justin says, no one has ever went south and popped back up in the north. North-south circumnavigation. Well, I mean, I don't know if there are people who have claimed to have done it, but I don't know if anything has been, any definitive evidence has been presented of that. You would think somebody would have done it. But you don't even necessarily have to do it. Because if you just have a few different planes circumnavigating Antarctica itself while other planes have line of sight verification to the other continents, you could do it that way too. Highly unlikely says, belief is for religion, in my opinion. Yes, it is. And the religion of scientism has a lot of true believers. Is that a plane in your avatar, Justin? Or is that a space shuttle? What is that? It's kind of hard to see. A guitar. Wow. You can see where my mind is at. Oh, okay. Now I see it. Yeah. That's funny. It almost kind of looks like a camera mounted on the outside of a prop plane or something like that. South to west. I'd be interested to know if there were flat earthers who have renounced their belief. You mean denounced? Renounce? Huh. Okay. I mean, it's basically the same word. Renounce to abandoned. Denounce to morally decry. Okay, so supposedly there are south to west. I don't know if they're just anti-flat earth grifters because they're popping up all over the place. So who knows if they truly renounced their belief of flat earth. Man, I don't even know how to pronounce your name. Eval ZQQNQ with that upside down V. Bruce, have you ever come across an experiment showing the directions of cameras pointed at the Southern Cross from different locations on Earth? No, I have not, and I actually mentioned at the beginning of this podcast that if you don't know the distances of the continents in relation to each other, if you haven't verified those so-called different locations on Earth, your experiment isn't worth anything. Because if you're going from South Narnia, North Narnia, looking which way, I mean, step one would be to verify what are those locations on Earth. Because if you presuppose through circular reasoning, logical fallacies, begging the questions, fallacies, that these continents are where they are in relation to Antarctica, that's a problem. You got to verify each step of the way. I mean, this is basic scientific method. Highly unlikely states once you go flat, you never go back, apparently. Is everybody in here a flat earther? Lucky Haskin says, you can never undo truth, folks. Careful what you wish for. Justin states, our ancestors knew everything and mapped the stars and made the zodiac wheel. Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting point about the zodiac wheel. Lucky Haskin says, everyone... let me rephrase the question. Is everyone here an intentional flat earther stating that they are a flat earther? I wouldn't state that I'm a flat earther. I wouldn't limit the possibilities to two models, either flat plane or globe. could be some kind of holographic reality based model. And I was half joking when I stated it'd be interesting if this was like some kind of software program reality where the creator of the program is kind of flip flopping it from sphere to flat just to mess with people. Because that'd be pretty funny. Just there's just so many different types of Atmos conditions that it would be pretty funny if somebody was doing that. Mario stated, the ball Earth is told to us, the flat stationary plane is shown to us. You cannot unsee the truth. Lucky Haskins, yes, the Earth is a motionless topographical plane, 100%. Increasement here, aware flat earther since 2015. Pinto Sack, leaning flat. I would say I would be leaning away from a sphere 25,000 miles in circumference. Leaning away from that just because of all the issues with I mean, there's so many unknown variables, though. I suppose it could still be, but the burden of proof is always on the positive claims, of course, and they have not substantiated that burden by any stretch of the imagination, so. Swirly, also not a flat earther, but I do side with them online because they act right, unlike the Globers. I also like that they challenge the dogma of mainstream science. Let's be exact, Swirly. They're not challenging the dogma of science. They're challenging the dogma of scientism, because science doesn't pick sides. It's a methodology. Scientism, on the other hand. Lucky Haskins, of course, but even if it's a simulation, it does not simulate globe. I mean, some people would debate that. I believe most of the mainstream proponents of holographic simulated reality are heliocentric globe earthers, but I don't know if I've ever actually seen them specifically address that. That'd be interesting. Highly unlikely stated, I tried to prove the globe. 2017, I'm now a flat earther. Justin states there's only one celestial pole, Polaris, and other southern stars appear to rotate opposite due to perspectives. Yeah, the easiest example I brought up on that are, put something at your feet in an office chair with wheels and spin clockwise while looking at it, and you could even point at it, and then without stopping your spin, look up at the ceiling or a light bulb at the ceiling. You'll appear to be going the opposite direction, but you're not. It's amazing how many clueless globe earthers try to make the argument of the so-called southern pole rotation, celestial body rotation, as somehow proving something. It's just crazy. Astro Kate in here. I'm a glober. I like balls. There's a lot of sports that are played with spherical balls. Is that all part of the indoctrination? On the other hand, you got hockey. Hockey's played with a puck. Some could argue a flat puck. Zodiac only makes sense on a flat earth. I don't know about that. I would call that a false dichotomy logical fallacy. It could theoretically make sense on a heliocentric globe. Lucky Haskins, how often is the majority right? Very rarely throughout history. But then again, even on this topic, the majority were once flat earthers, because all the ancient civilizations, if that information is true, all had the flat snow globe model. So let's not fall for the fallacy. Just because the majority usually is wrong doesn't mean they're always wrong. But we don't need to appeal to popularity anyway in the first place. Based Truther states, does seeing the sun and the moon during the day at the same time prove flat Earth? I wouldn't prove any model, depending on all the variables. Pinto Sack, nothing bugs me more than the arrogance these scientism goofs display. I mean, I think it's funny. I think they're Dunning-Kruger style. I haven't laughed as hard from between Sartain and Craig of Fight the Flat Earth. I've laughed harder at Craig than every single comedian I've ever seen in the history of watching comedians combined. I mean, the comedic stylings. I mean, would anybody be surprised if Craig of Fight the Flat Earth eventually came out that he was just doing a satire account and he's just a really good actor? I mean, because it just looks like, anti flat earth grift satire, like Craig of Fight the Flat Earth. I mean, I don't know why it bugs people. I think it's hilarious. I mean, it's just so funny. I mean, the Dunning Kruger stylings are so off the charts with people like Craig. Jeff Kunkel said Craig is a loser. Well, I don't know, man. I would say the comedic value he has brought. I mean, it's incredible. I'm very grateful for the comedic antics that Craig brings forth. I mean, he might be suffering more from the Dunning Kruger effect than any other human in the world. I mean, that's the accomplishment. I don't know about you guys, but that's an accomplishment. I wouldn't call him useless. I mean, his Dunning Kruger stylings are very amusing. Lucky Haskin says, based the physics of water do, I'm going to a hockey game shortly. They need to bring back more hockey fights. Hockey fights were highly entertaining. They should just have fights in all sports allowed. Would make them more entertaining. Might be harder to fix, too, with people getting injured left and right. Think about it. Justin said, think about it. There's only one zodiac wheel, not two. Well, I'm trying to remember where I saw that animation. I saw a really interesting animation of multiple zodiac wheels overlapping, which obviously there's no reason why that wouldn't work on a flat plane either, but Mario says there is no South Zodiac. Well, I mean, the Zodiac would just be above the Earth, regardless of what it was. Welcome, Heracles. I'm almost done with the Matt Walsh analysis, the test run of the new system. It is tough. I mean, Matt Walsh. I mean, I didn't think that he would break the counters, multiple counters on multiple occasions, but man. So we're gonna have two divisions. We're gonna have the debate division and the solo division. So the solo division is just a single person racking up fallacies. So it won't count for a debate championship because it's just a single person. Dave Scott in the house. Fallacious Felicia is his new nickname. Well, maybe Felicia is one of his other personalities. Is he also Brenda? Is Craig in drag Brenda debates or whatever that goof is? Lucky Haskins says, to me, the logical default is flat, yes. Lucky, I really dug your recent Antarctica stuff. Gonna check out more. Cool, yeah. Antarctica is, I mean, it's mysterious, no doubt. I mean, there was a meme, I forgot who shared it. Probably one of these flat earthers where mentioning these countries bombing each other will still follow the Antarctic Treaty. I mean, they'll bomb the crap out of each other. They will decimate each other's cities to rubble and kill millions. But they'll protect Antarctica. Johnny Sizzlechest can't wait for the Matt Walsh analysis. Okay, you guys better appreciate what I'm doing with the new system because not only is it so time consuming, but the level of pain, like I seriously could. I mean, Matt Walsh is going to be competing with Craig soon. I mean, I could not believe half the stuff he said. It was so nonsensical. I mean, it's just weird because, admittedly, I haven't watched a lot of his stuff, but he appeared to be on a basic level. I mean, I don't know, but Heracles says there are at least two celestial spheres. Yeah, there might be a lot of celestial spheres. based truther. How does one explain lunar eclipses? Is Rahu and Ketu a good enough explanation? So I forgot which podcast I went over this. This was one of the earlier flat earth analyses. But even NASA on their own website talks about opaque celestial bodies. So if there's all these celestial bodies that are part of the light spectrum that the human eye can't see, an opaque body could be passing in front of the moon, which is the black sun explanation. But, I mean, you can find that with NASA's own documentation on the light spectrum and what humans can and can't see. Matt says, it's measured and navigated level. Yes. Delayed Choice says, celestial navigation and sextant require a flat earth. Not necessarily. Because, again, I did this example with a beach ball. You can take a tiny level and put it on a beach ball, and it will be perfectly flat for that small portion of the beach ball. So you could theoretically use a sextant over short distances. But, yes, just from the surface, it would seem that it would work better on a plane. Alright, good luck, Lucky. Have fun at the big hockey game. Pinto Sack says, I heard Eric Dubé thinks Flat Earth Dave is a fraud. So, is there anyone who Eric Dubé doesn't think is a fraud? I mean, I guess he did Eddie Bravo's podcast, but why does he think Flat Earth Dave is a fraud? Panda Master Bear. Hi, Mindshock, loving this channel, thank you. Logic and reason rule the day here. We're not falling for logical fallacies. Jeff states the earth is flat and true. Lucky said save the penguins. Lucky. Matt Walsh, obvious agent against humanity. Is he, though? I mean, wouldn't it be... Okay, when you say agent against humanity, you mean an intentional agent against humanity or someone being used as a useful idiot? Because I think a lot of these personalities are just useful idiots. They don't really know what they're doing. But, again, that's just one of many theories. Maybe they are diabolical and evil and know exactly what they're doing. It's kind of, again, maybe this is me appealing to incredulity and committing a logical fallacy myself, but it's kind of a big ask. A lot of these people, they seem really goofy. To trust them with high-level information, I mean, it seems like it would be easier just to have them be useful idiots. Like, does Greta Thunberg know exactly what's going on with the climate? Or did it just feed her some BS propaganda, and she took it on faith, and she's not being deceptive. She's just going around saying what she believes is true as a useful idiot. Anders here. Greetings from Sweden, flat as it gets here in Scandinavia. Justin says, celestial spheres, how would you know they are spheres? Well, what is the vault of the heavens? It's almost like the inside of a sphere. Heracles states, I believe it also might be a dielectric effect or a polarization effect causing the eclipses. Sure, anything is possible. It's kind of weird just to hallucinate there's only one possibility. I mean, people really like to spam false dichotomies for some reason. I mean, I don't get it, like on a lot of subjects. It's either the official narrative or one conspiracy theory. It can't be any other possible. It's just so weird. Justin states, you cannot go around a sphere with a level. A small enough level you could. Depending on the size of the sphere, the distance of the celestial bodies you're measuring the angle to. A lot of variables. Jeff states they know it's spheres because of gravity and refraction. Gravity. Man, do we got any gravity questions up in here? Oh man, Big G trying to replace G. I mean, it's kind of obvious. Like, let's do a quick aside on just occult conspiracy. So, they have gravity, the G. I mean, obviously, God, Big G. Then they also have government, Big G. It's like they're not even trying to hide how they're trying to replace God. Obviously, Satan, the father of lies, regardless of, whether this is a literal entity or whatever, the stories are true or untrue. It's just kind of weird. It's kind of coincidental they're always going after Big G and trying to replace Big G. Delayed Choice states the equator comes from an elevation angle to Polaris. It's a circle of equal altitude with a 90-degree at the GP of the pole measured flat. Well, again, are you presupposing these variables? Like, I'm not saying that's not what's going on, but there seems to be a lot of missing information there. Heracles said they may be flat, not spheres, but there appears to be at least two different. Pro. Mario says Flat Earth Dave has a Flat Earth kitchen. No way he is a shill. Yeah, Flat Earth Dave seems like a really nice guy too. I think I really do need to have a conversation with him. I actually might as well announce it here. I have a special guest, a high level professor, formerly in academia, and we'll be discussing epistemology and flat Earth, of course, we'll be touching upon as well as scientism, and that will be probably before the end of the weekend. I should be able to get that out. And then I might have a number of other guests, some surprise guests. And then, of course, I will be reaching out to Eddie Bravo. It would be fun to do his podcast, too. He invited me on a while ago, and I was just juggling a lot with the scheduling. I'm trying to get that all on track and getting more guests on here as well. Heracles said two different rotations. You talking about the zodiac or celestial spheres representing that the zodiacs represent? Yes, at least two. As you said before, yeah, it could be a lot more. Base Truther, I think Eric Dubay thinks Flat Earth Dave because of his debate with Professor Dave and Flat Earth Dave recent collab with Tyler Oliver. So the so-called debate with Professor Dave, where Professor Dave obliterated himself in hilarious fashion, so-called Professor Dave, that actually brought a lot of attention and awareness to Flat Earth. So why would he think Flat Earth Dave would be a shill because of that? I don't know anything. I don't know who Tyler Oliveira is. Pinto Sack. Bruce, maybe you and Maxwell Powers can make a trip to Antarctica. Man, we might not make it back. You know, it's weird. If Antarctica is some kind of ice wall and there's many continents beyond it, I mean, it's almost interesting to think how many people have made it out of this circle. And I brought this up on the Antarctica podcast. What if there is another circle in the Arctic? The Arctic Circle, obviously it's much smaller, but maybe we're not the smallest one. Maybe there are some other islands, disappearing islands like Hyperborea, or, these islands of supposed myth and legend. They're in the Arctic Circle, and there's another circle there, and maybe a smaller ice wall. Obviously, the Antarctic ice wall would be much, much bigger, but it's interesting to think how many people could have made it beyond already. But yeah, I would definitely like to go. I know a couple people who've done that little cruise. Obviously, I mean, I don't even know if they touched. They might have touched and walked around a little bit on who knows what, whether that he was even, islands of Antarctica or Antarctica itself. I don't believe, yeah, I don't know anybody that supposedly went to either what do they call it? The figurehead South Pole or whatever, the photo area of the South Pole, which is admittedly not the real South Pole. I don't even know anybody that's went there. And then, of course, supposedly there's a real one, but the real one is not where everybody takes the photos anyway, so it's kind of weird. Justin, with a small enough level, yes, you would need a small enough level. Everything's all about proportions. Jeff says gravity causes gravity. Yeah. Well, it's kind of weird because a lot of these scientism cultists that worship at these scientism authorities who openly admit they don't know anything about gravity, they just measure it. So I mean, obviously not even knowing what they're measuring or how to separate electric forces from supposed gravitational forces. Increasement states, for a while I thought it could be a bigger ball, but it would have to be geocentric. Yes. And like I said on some of these other podcasts, I'm in a unique position because I've been looking at geocentrism since even before 2000. So, and I was on this big forum that's no longer up. I can't find it. It's like it's been wiped from the internet. Over 200 physics professors across mostly U.S. institutions were geocentrists, or at least seriously discussing and debating it, as recent as 20 years ago. Mark Sargent in the house. Love and respect everyone in the flat and unstoppable flat earth community. Long live flat earth. I need to do an interview with Mark Sargent as well. He's really underrated because a lot of people sleep on his arguments, but he's got some really good logical points. Watching him dismantle some of these mainstream puppets is just beyond hilarious. I think I only covered maybe one or two of his interviews. Just the people that he talks to are just so goofy. And he makes them look like such utter fools, but politely. I mean, Mark Sargent is pretty hilarious. You got any questions for me, Mark? Dave Scott, don't forget Freemasonry, Big G. Yeah, good. Wow, good point, Dave. Good point. They're always trying to usurp the G that stands for God. Mario said Tyler trolled DITRH Flat Earth Dave, I'm assuming you're referring to, pretty well. Could happen to anyone. I have to check that out. Neil says Dave is how I found it. Yeah, Dave posted some of my analyses. The ones with the new system are going to be crazy, though. It's taken so long, and there's only so much I can handle mentally. I mean, Matt Walsh was actually, I don't want to say he was worse than Craig, but he was pushing it at certain moments. He was pushing it. Delayed choice. An angle requires a flat baseline to be an angle. You can't get an angle from a curve. Well, you could do this experiment yourself. You could take a beach ball with a small enough level, and if you have whatever other source you're using to measure the angle to, if depending on the distance, you can do it. Mark Sargent, it was long overdue that David took a stage for his content. Lord knows he has done it enough times. Flat Earth Dave would love to do a show with you, Bruce. He loves you. He seems like a nice guy, too. That's what I don't get about, like, a lot of the hate he gets. Like, him and Mark Sargent, too. Like, there's other flat earthers out there that are just very abrasive and and you could understand why people would attack them. But Dave and Mark are so polite and nice about everything. It's kind of weird. Like, I don't know. It was always weird to me with people trying to trash them. Yeah, it's really weird. And of all the guys to trash, those two would not be the ones I would think anybody would be going after. South to West, hashtag Maxwell Army. Rethink states he's a scumbag, nuff sad. Who's a scumbag? Mark Sargent said Tyler was the kid who trolled the Flat Earth Vegas conference last October. What did he do to troll? He pretended to be a flat earther? Dave Scott says Dubay smells kind of shilly to me, just my opinion. Mark, what do you think of Dubay? Because Eddie Bravo seems to like Dubay, but I actually did some research on him. I was going to release a podcast on this. This might be highly controversial within the flat earth community. But his parents direct connections to Langley, Virginia. And there's a lot of DC funny business there. Again, that doesn't prove he's a shill in any way, but just being really close to Langley and DC and having family there. I mean, obviously, there's millions of people that live there. It doesn't prove anything. But if he wasn't from there with his family not having ties specifically to Langley or the Langley area, that would be a little, I mean, it would be a little easier. But unless, I mean, that still doesn't mean he's a shill. But if he was privy to certain information, particularly, because he was one of the first guys. I think Math Powerland was the first. I mean, you guys can correct me here. Was Math Powerland the first guy to leak Flat Earth, and then Dubay came right after that within months? But if Dubay is like kind of like a whistleblower, what if if his family is connected to Langley, and there were whispers of this kind of stuff, and he kind of moved to Thailand to get away from it and to leak it with benevolent motives, perhaps he's not a shill. But some people point to him dressing up in drag and doing all those weird videos as some kind of satanic occult stuff. I don't know. Base Truther said, I would have to disagree. I think it brought a lot of negative attention to Flat Earth, unfortunately, bad publicity. What did the Flat Earth Dave versus so-called Professor Dave? I mean, I don't know. I don't know if I could say it brought bad publicity because only childish goofs would think that Professor Dave won in any way. I mean, he was like a 4-year-old throwing a tantrum and name calling, getting absolutely decimated. I mean, any mature adult, regardless of whether they're flat earther or globe earther, I don't think that would have. I mean, all the negative attention was on so-called Professor Dave. Mark Sargent says, Eric isn't a shill. His ego, on the other hand, is something to behold. Well, Mark, what do you think about Dubay's family being from Langley and him dressing in drag and doing all that weird stuff? Like, even before the whole trans thing got really popular. Because that was back in, I don't know, was that 2015, 2016 when he was doing that? Panda Master Bear states, Dubay confuses me. He brought me to Flat Earth along with Mark Sargent in 2016, but he doesn't play well with others. Well, the other thing is his written stuff is really well put together. But then his interviews, it almost like it doesn't match the people. There were a few videos made so-called exposing him and his family connections to Langley, but they also mentioned that as a speaker, like Mark speaks so well, even though he's usually not even discussing advanced topics, but he's very eloquent, whereas Dubé is not a great speaker, but if you read what he wrote, it almost doesn't match. It's like someone else is writing his material. That's what a lot of the so-called exposés on Dubé allege, and just looking at some of Dubé's interviews, they're not really, they don't match his what, Atlantean conspiracy website or whatever that was, because that was pretty well written. The Sarge is a real OG. Mark Sargent says, yeah, what did you use to generate that thumb? Pretty slick. I have a custom AI that I kind of built. Obviously, the regular ones are all censored, but I was building a custom AI which I was using for true crime and conspiracy analysis. And it can also do image generation and various things. But yeah, I thought it looked pretty cool too. Kylerman Kakuzu, did you see any of Witsit's recent debates? I haven't watched them all the way through. I saw that he's got some new ones. I have a long list of Witsit debates, but I want to make sure to do them justice when I have the new logical analysis system, which I'm trial running on Matt Walsh's moon landing video. Once I get all of that streamlined with the new system, I'll be doing a lot of the Witsit debates. Merman 84, I lost a lot of respect for the Walsh man after that insane moon landing talk. Yeah, it's bonkers. It's bonkers because on a lot of his, again, I haven't seen a lot of his videos or talks, but he seemed relatively logical and rational. Like, you know, I don't know. I've seen more of Ben Shapiro's stuff, but I would like to. Has Shapiro ever defended the moonlight? I would like to see what kind of art, because I don't see Shapiro making as dumb arguments as Matt Walsh did. Jeff asked, "Ever seen a sunrise?" I mean, you think you think there's mole people in here? Jeff, is that a question for me? You think I'm a mole person, and I haven't seen a sunrise? I think everybody's seen a sunrise except for the mole people. And even them, I mean, they might have seen a couple. Mark Sargent says, Matt Walsh surprised me. Did not think he would defend the U.S. moon program that hard. Should have done a little research before that knee-jerk response. I mean, are we sure he didn't? It almost seems like, maybe not research, but it seems like he had some notes that it seemed like he took some notes down on things that he wanted to touch upon, but some of the arguments were so silly. The new logical analysis system will not disappoint on that one. I should have that done in less than a week. Run Boston Bear, just stopping by. Legends in the chat and on the mic. Thank you, Run Boston Bear. Heracles, Matt is a space lover, no doubt. Riz, hard to watch. Justin states, all flat earthers get treated like it by mainstream. Yeah, I mean, anyone not pushing the narrative is kind of seen as this blaspheming enemy. Merman 84, Bruce, what percentage are you into believing flat earth? It's a fascinating topic. Well, as I said at the beginning, I'm not into believing anything about anything. Beliefs, as whoever in the chat said it, belief is for religion, like the religion of scientism. Either something has enough evidence to substantiate it or it doesn't. If it doesn't, there's no reason to believe or disbelieve. But I will say, a globe 25,000 miles in circumference, it's not looking good. Also, I don't like false dichotomies, so I don't believe it's just a flat globe or that's it. There could be many, many other different types of models, simulations, whatever. Rethink Inc. states fake Professor Dave is a scumbag. Oh, Professor Dave. I thought you were talking about Flat Earth Dave for a second. Professor Dave. Yeah, Professor Dave's a goof, so-called Professor Dave. I mean, it's tough. He's a train wreck. They should do some kind of Dunning-Kruger Legends debate where it's so-called Professor Dave, Craig, McToon. So, just the legends of Dunning-Kruger. Jeff states, the sun does not swing in from the side, it rises from behind the horizon. I don't know what you're getting at. How can you phonetically spell your name? EvolZQQNQ. Did you catch the debate journalism had with primetime Alex Stein this week? A Space Force pilot claims that we are surrounded by an ice wall. No, I didn't, but now that you mention it, I'm going to have to check that out because that looks very interesting. And for the people that are just joining, I have a guest, a high-level academic professor. I will be discussing epistemology, scientism, and flat Earth with him. He worked at a national lab. I mean, this guy's high-level academic, and that will be debuting, I believe, Sunday. This is Mindshock. We're all over the place. This is an impromptu Q&A. I don't stick to schedules. But it'll be coming, and it'll be good. Alien Big Cat 23. Damn! Flat Earth again? Yes. Flat Earth again. Because Flat Earth is one of the greatest topics to develop logic regardless of which side you're on. As long as you're good faith. Well, and if you're not, you're still providing Dunning-Kruger comedy stylings and various psychological insights for educational purposes and comedic purposes, so it's all good. Delayed Choice says, never mind a beach ball. In real-world navigation, the baseline could be 1,000 miles. Measured with an elevation angle to create multiple circles of equal altitude or multiple flat areas. What's your point with that? I'm not necessarily disagreeing with you there. You could do that. Mark Sargent, Math Powerland was first, but his content was hard to follow. Eric came out in 2014. Wow, I thought it was 2015. Was it the end of 2014 or the beginning? I don't believe I saw anything about Flat Earth until 2015. Math Powerland was earlier than that. Was he 2011? I do have a history of Flat Earth podcasts coming out, and I was doing some research on Powerland. I don't remember the exact year, but it was actually kind of curious because I guess he was into the fake moon landing first, so I don't know if the Flat Earth content came, but Powerland was around 2011 or even earlier. Did he make his NASA channel in 2008-ish? But that wasn't specifically Flat Earth, right? Run Boston Bear. Tyler has over 5 million subs. His Flat Earth video, even though trollish, wasn't as bad as it could have been. I still think it was good for the movement. Well, that's the thing, Run Boston Bear. Every time, and that's why Mark Sargent, I don't even think Mark Sargent gets the credit he deserves, even as a non-Flat Earther, because Sargent makes all these people look like utter fools. And it's just so, because he's so polite about it. And it just makes it so hilarious to watch in the mainstream. So it's, even if they're trying to make the Flat Earther look bad, usually the Flat Earthers look way better. And even if they don't necessarily, even if there's gotcha moments and the Flat Earthers get caught, it still gets people inquisitive. Like, why, if it's that silly, like, do they have people in the mainstream talking about cars aren't real conspiracies? Like, do they give them airtime? Why don't they give them airtime? Because it's kind of obvious that that conspiracy doesn't work. Whereas the Flat Earth conspiracy could theoretically work, so that's why they're giving it airtime. So the fact that it's even getting mainstream attention, it can't be a bad thing simply because they wouldn't even give it the airtime if there was really absolutely nothing to it. Increasement. Dubé does great Flat Earth work, but makes us look ridiculous with his Adolf content. Well, I mean, I don't have a problem with people asking questions. Asking questions is always good. I don't know if he was alleging something in non-question form. But it is kind of curious that there are literal laws against even asking questions. That's enough to make anyone raise an eyebrow, of course. And then the victors write the history books, so that's another thing to consider. Obviously, you know, condoning any kind of death is unconscionable, but it is also kind of weird that everybody obsesses over that one particular genocide, and yet you can crack as many jokes as you want about the millions and millions that Stalin and Mao wiped out. But there's no ADL for them. It's just kind of weird. It's a little weird. I'm just saying. I don't, no genocide should ever be downplayed in any way. But it's kind of weird that these far greater genocides killing even more people, it's a-okay to question them, to make jokes about them. But this one particular genocide, you're just not allowed for whatever reason. Again, I don't condone any kind of statism. Statism is the greatest cause of human death in history. Hundreds of millions have been killed by statism, the statist cult. And yeah, so obviously that's not not defending that in any way. It's just weird how people don't seem to care about any other genocides. Riz says, yeah, but people are not that smart. They rely on Professor Dave to protect their cognitive dissonance. Yeah, but those types of people, they weren't going to be won over anyway. So it's kind of like, by won over, I mean won over to the side of logic, not specifically believing flat Earth. So they weren't going to change all those goofs. They're hopeless anyway. So the kind of sort of bad publicity to whom? To the clueless goofs? That doesn't really matter. Whereas to the people who had some kind of maturity, Professor Dave just made him himself look like a complete goof. Increasement said Matt's content is still hard to follow, but I'd absolutely hire him to do my floors. Well, his stand-up, I think that was, I don't remember when, I think he was the guy that said, this is the first picture taken of whatever, them landing on the moon. The only problem is who took the picture or whatever, which was pretty funny, and his comedic delivery is pretty good. Base Truther says, most of Professor Dave's fans are immature doofs. The average person who watches that debate will think Professor Dave won. I mean, not anybody. If you're saying the average person doesn't even have an inkling of basic logic, I mean, maybe, but I don't know. Mark Sargent said, I was there back. Matt, Eric, and I were squaring off. Neither of them liked sharing the stage, especially Matt. Eric's family might be suspicious, but he could have moved to the States and influenced. He could have moved to the States? What do you mean? Why do you think he moved to Thailand in the first place? And he was doing Wing Chun, so he's this martial, and possibly yoga. He was doing Wing Chun and yoga. I'm a big Wing Chun fan, so it was interesting seeing that. But Riz says, yeah, it's sad how cringe were the guys in the background. That Andrew Gold guy, man, what a goof. So-called Professor Dave did a follow-up with him. I was gonna analyze that too, but it was so painful. Increasement says, I thought Stars Are Souls was first. Wow, I haven't thought about that channel in a while. That was a great channel. Did that all get taken down and then it came back, but it was it not the same person? Stars or Souls was around a long time ago, yeah. Base Truther says, Eric Dubé made a video addressing the shill allegations. The video is called Eric Dubé Exposed or Not. I'll check that out. Riz says, they acted like primary school kids watching a bully pick on some... Well, I mean, they might have mental disabilities, though, Riz. Let's not immediately jump to that. Because if they didn't seem to comprehend anything going on anyway. Jeff says, during a lunar eclipse, you are literally seeing the shadow of the Earth cast upon the moon. Literally? Well, again, if you actually model the proportions, supposedly a sphere of the size of the Earth, 25,000 miles in circumference, it wouldn't look like that at all. And then, of course, you do have the Senelenion eclipse, where the sun and the moon are both above the horizon at the same time, so clearly that wouldn't be the Earth in the way. But yes, everybody's familiar with the establishment explanations, the scientism explanations. Increasement mentioning the Senelenion, yes. Professor Dave is insufferable. Well, he's kind of funny in a Dunning-Kruger kind of way. Not as funny as Craig, but Justin states Jeff brought his bag of fallacies. Bag of fallacies. A lot of people seem to be carrying those around. And they're not like the small ones. They're like those military duffels. I mean, they're pretty big. They got they got a lot of them in there. Merman84, Nathan Oakley and Eddie Bravo are talking about doing a podcast. Nathan also emailed Max Egan to reignite his interest on the topic. Man, Nathan Oakley, what a character. Riz says, I have videos of the supposed shadows that I took myself where the moon and the sun are both in the sky at the same time and the shadow is not where it's supposed to be. Go do it yourself. I think was it Flat Earth Dave that had a video on this, which was interesting. He took spheres, so whatever the alleged proportions are, the Earth being much larger than the moon, and trying to kind of replicate a shadow situation. And it was quite interesting because, yeah, I mean, there's just so many variables to just hallucinate that it has to be the Earth, and it could only be the Earth that would cause. Not to mention, you can see stars through even a crescent of the moon. So how would that work if it's the shadow? There's a lot of problems with a lot of these arguments. Coincidence is short for cognitive dissonance. Justin, that is phenomenal. Did you just make that up? That is excellent. That is excellent. Mark Sargent says, Nathan and Eddie, that's an interesting team up. Nathan takes flat earth debates and turns it into an S&M dungeon game. Mark, are you an expert on that as well? I mean, that seems pretty accurate, but where is your expertise for this comparison coming from, Mark? Jeff Conkle says, Jeff Desern, you don't deserve to have the name Jeff. Hey, he can present his argument. It's just he immediately spammed false dichotomy, circular reasoning, and what is possibly a false premise if he can't support it. Rethink Inc. can't do Nathan Oakley. Nathan Oakley, he turns Flat Earth into a sideshow. Yeah, he's rough. He's rough. I mean, I've seen some of his older videos. He goes into some advanced concepts very well, but it seems he can't handle basic concepts, which throws everything completely out of whack, because you really should be able to do basic, intermediate, and advanced, because if you can only do advanced, you're gonna alienate most of the audience. Riz says, your special guest should speak to Craig. Craig is big on epistemology. Oh, man. Rethink says, Craig is a joke. Riz, Craig is a raid boss. Rethink, fight the flat earth is an expletive child that cries about money. Point made. Well, he's obviously an anti-flat earth grifter. SL3RR just got here. This looks like it's going to be fun, though. Thanks for doing your thing, Mindshock. Yep. We got Mark Sargent in here. The mythical Math Powerland story, Matt Boylan, when he was at the NASA party, took place in the mid-2000s. However, Matt didn't push Flat Earth specific until 2013. That's interesting. Why do you think that is, Mark? What do you think the catalyst is? Because I've never heard this story of the catalyst where he decided, because I never even heard him place a date on that NASA party story. Although, Mark, I don't know if you were aware. Maybe I should save this for. We need to do an interview for sure. I should save this. Should I save this story? The Mindshock listeners want to know. All right, let me just say this. I've heard from, not from JR, but, and not firsthand. So again, this might not be true. This is non-firsthand information. But there were other so-called parties where the flat earth joke was made around that time period. Like well before 2015 on the internet. I've had a couple people actually tell, not firsthand, tell me that. Justin, the truth doesn't fear investigation. That is a fact. Merman84, Bruce, we spoke on X. I think it's time we discuss Craig's genetic logical fallacies live. Well, I mean, it would take countless hours to go over. I mean, I had to make a whole new logical analysis system just because of Craig. I mean, he facilitated an entirely new. I never even thought that would need to be done. I didn't think it was possible. Craig's logical deficiency is so extreme. I didn't even think this was all possible. But Craig is a pioneer. He's a Dunning-Kruger pioneer. We got to give him the credit he deserves. Rethink Inc. saying Craig isn't epistemology following person is an expletive joke. Well, he might think he is, though, which is what's hilarious about his Dunning-Kruger stylings. Justin states, hoax after hoax after hoax. At what point is someone's credibility gone? Well, I would argue no one deserves credibility in the first place. Credibility should be earned. Dave says, anyone notice that Mindshock chat is the most chill? Yes, we are chill here. I mean, we got trolls now and again, but all we can do is laugh at them. Justin says, until Fallacious send in the foot soldiers. Well, most of the foot soldiers are funny with their Dunning-Kruger stylings. Like, I appreciate them. I don't have a problem with them unless they just start spamming nonsense. Rethink Inc. If following what's been written in the last 100 years or less is proper over the last 5,000 years, wake up. Can you expand on that? I'm not sure what you're getting at. Mark, Eric got 130,000 from a medical class action and decided that the money would go a lot further in Thailand, so he did yoga and martial arts there. Now, that's actually logical. Especially back then. I mean, now Thailand supposedly is quite pricey. I know a few people that were looking to retire over there, and they changed their minds because the money doesn't go as far as it used to 10, 20, 30 years ago over there. Run Boston Bear, much love, y'all gotta go. Logic and truth should be valued and pursued. Keep being a light in the world seems to dim, as the world seems to dim. Yes, sir, Run Boston Bear. We are not gonna give up on logic. Dean Walsh, what's with the squeaky voice? I don't have my own studio. This is noise cancellation software, and it's actually way better than the old one. If you listen to the old videos, they're even worse. EvolZQQNQ. Bruce, I'm using a lot of your content to create homeschool curriculum for my son. Do you have any recommendations for parents of young children looking to instill critical thinking and logic? One of the first things you should probably do, if you haven't already, is check into John Gatto. Gatto wrote a number of books. This is a guy who was a National Teacher of the Year award winner. He was a New York public school teacher for many years. And one day he just decided enough was enough and walked away from it all. John Taylor Gatto. He wrote books about the dumbing down of America and all of that by design, and how young children, somewhere 90+% of young children are literal geniuses. And by the time they graduate high school, that drops to well below 5%. So their genius is indoctrinated out of them. But I have to say, when I went to school many decades ago, we actually learned logic in school. up until, I would say, mid-elementary school, and then it all disappeared from the curriculum. So I guess it was some kind of mass federal switch. But I'm also a big fan of Greek mythology because their obsession with hubris. If you haven't checked out the Metacognition podcast here on Mindshock, check that out. That's one of my favorite ones I did. Thinking about thinking. And the epistemology one coming up this weekend is going to be fantastic as well. But yeah, just general logic, logical fallacies. I mean, the basic stuff that is seemingly abandoned in academia. The basic scientific method. I mean, it's all there. It's all basics. It's just, for some reason, it's all completely abandoned in public schools and even colleges. And I'll be talking about that on the epistemology podcast, which will probably make that a series, actually, because there's a lot to go over there. Merman 84, if you cast a shadow of a sphere onto another sphere, it generates a straight termination line. Interesting fact I heard. Yeah, it's interesting. Captain Hatton, Earth is round. Neil deGrasse Tyson says so, guys. Neil deGrasse Tyson. If you haven't checked out my logical analysis of Tyson, you gotta check it out. I mean, that goof is hilarious. I'm going to be doing some more analyses with him using the new system as well. Captain Hatton, when is the Nathan Oakley Bruce McGuire debate? Wow, do you guys actually want to see that? Because it's not going to be efficient, because if we have to argue about the definition of science, the empirically verifiable definition of science, and if Nathan Oakley is not aware of what a no true Scotsman fallacy is, I mean, it's going to be a short debate. Oh, Brick, you don't think the Southern Cross argument is strong for the globe, do you? No, that is a terrible argument, because if you haven't verified your position in relation to other continents, how do you even know you're looking where the Southern Cross is claimed on a globe? I mean, that's problem number one. Number two, with the rotations going the opposite way, again, sit in an office chair, look down, point your finger at an object between your feet, spin clockwise, and then continuing your spin, look at the lamp on the ceiling, and it'll look like the opposite direction, but it's actually not. So the southern celestial body rotation and the Southern Cross argument's pretty terrible. Furthermore, I actually brought up a video where you actually can see the Southern Cross from the northern hemisphere. I forget exactly where they did it. It's a non-flat Earth channel. There's an astronomy, like an amateur astronomy channel. And I believe it was uploaded many years ago. It has nothing to do with Flat Earth. But you can see the Southern Cross from the Northern Hemisphere anyway. So that argument doesn't work on any level. Justin states, there is one set of stars. Look at the zodiac wheel. All people on Earth are a sign on that wheel. Geotolemy, hiya y'all. What's up? Geotolemy. Bringing Ptolemy in the house. Mark Sargent, just let me know when you want to set something up, and I will do an old school discussion with you. Awesome. Yep. Yeah, definitely, Mark. You're actually one of my favorite guys to watch just because of how you keep it polite and you just destroy some of these mainstream goofs, but they're so dumb they didn't even realize you just destroyed them. I mean, just the psychology of these conversations are so fascinating. You were definitely one of my inspirations to do the logical analyses on flat Earth subjects, because the people you were talking to were just so incredibly illogical that I wanted to point that out in podcasts. But yeah, I gotta get the schedule set because I need to have a lot more people on. Riz says, do you think the flat Earth movement is big enough now that it can't be censored officially anymore? Yes, definitely. It's like, I mean, again, it's like the Streisand effect. The more they try, like, look at the amount they try to censor, the more popular. People who didn't even know who Alex Jones was after he got so-called canceled, now they knew. And they specifically looked into him. They're like, well, who is this guy? And why is he getting canceled? Is he really that crazy? People who would have never even looked him up in the first place if he didn't get canceled. So, yes, I think the Streisand effect is very, very real. Censoring pretty much always backfires. In fact, I mean, I don't even know. Can anyone think of where something that was already public and then got censored didn't backfire? I mean, obviously there are censored topics that we don't know about that were censored from the get-go. But once something is already out and then censored, it seems like it's always the Streisand effect. Heracles says, I think it's censored pretty well. The recommended is filled with Professor Dave and Simon Dan vids. Yes, but that in and of itself is a clue to the censoring. Because people can't, like, they're so obvious about it. By the way, so Bubsy Love. By the way, my name here is Bubsy Love upside down. Yeah. That is curious. Riz says, I feel like it's growing every day. There's no doubt there's a concerted effort to silence it. Heracles says, Bruce, you must be close to my age. I learned logic and deductive reasoning in school, too. Yeah, it was funny because one year it was just gone. So I don't even remember the exact grade. It was somewhere in elementary school. And one year we were learning all about it. And then the next year it disappeared and it never, ever came back. Definitely not in high school. Or in college. I mean, even my college classes on logic carefully avoided practical application. It was just memorizing definitions. There was no actual application of it. Thank you, Mark. Yeah, hit the like button, people. Let's get this out more. You know, honestly, am I the only person on YouTube who's surprised at the amount of subs they already have? I say this all the time. Like, when I first started, I thought maybe I'd hit 10K. Maybe, if that. Not that there aren't logical people out there, just the fact that they would find the channel. There's probably at least 1 million logical people out there. Probably more. Probably at least a couple million. But the fact that they'd be interested in even listening to something like this, even if they were already aware of it, it's kind of crazy. Rethink Inc. The overlords have a huge problem. The internet is the biggest problem and the biggest opportunity for the controllers. That is a very interesting statement, Rethink Inc. I've thought about that a lot of times as well. First issue is, why did they even allow it out? So for the people who haven't checked out the Bill Gates podcast, it was removed from YouTube, my Mindshock podcast on Bill Gates. You can find it on the Rumble and BitChute Mindshock channels. But Bill Gates was seriously bankrolled. And so was Apple. So the powers that be clearly could have stopped the development of the personal computer and internet. They didn't. Now, why is that? If we go to even, was it Fatima's prophecy about everybody will have a black mirror through which the devil will enter? So she made that prophecy over 100 years ago. And so are these black mirrors, these smartphones everybody carries around permanently connected to the internet, is it doing more harm than good? So it's almost like a double-edged sword. All the real information that damages the powers that be is on there, but so is all of the satanic influence that corrupts and takes minds by the millions and the tens of millions and the hundreds of millions. So I think the powers that be could have clearly prevented the internet if they wanted to. That was like a really long aside, but yeah. Justin states, trust your ancestors. They knew best and documented it, showing more lands and how our celestial luminaries and our electric-magnetic field toroid work. Yeah, I mean, the disregard of previous civilizations, I mean, that level of narcissism is just, again, hubris. The Greek myths, for whoever asked about curriculum for young children, I would focus a lot on the Greek myths and the hubris. I mean, just the warnings of the pride cometh before the fall. That's why the motto here on Mindshock, of course, is the only thing we know for sure is that we don't know anything for sure. As soon as you get narcissistic and dogmatic, which go hand in hand, you're going to block yourself off from gaining intellect and wisdom. Riz, is no true Scotsman something like if an Italian man can't make pizza, he's not really Italian? Not exactly. I think the original, it was something about putting something in your food, and it's like no Scotsman puts this in your food, and then someone says, no, well, I do. And you say, well, no true Scotsman is going to put that in there. It's almost like a hasty generalization, logical fallacy, or an appeal to purity, overlaps with moving the goalposts, etc. Also an appeal to extremes, and a lot of these fallacies overlap. Justin, I love not appealing to credentials. I wish everybody loved that. Mark, thank you for the kind words. I tend to sneak up on the opposition. Yeah, it's so weird because it's like this, it's also a certain amount of narcissism, right? Like some of these news anchors or radio hosts, their narcissism is so off the charts that they just automatically assumed Mark Sargent was an idiot. So then when he can easily sneak up on them and just demolish them. But again, the thing I like about Mark is he's so polite about demolishing them. It's so entertaining to watch. Mark Sargent says, this year I am spending more time visiting live chats, seeing what the temperature of flat earth is. Hint, it's hot again. Well, when did it get cool? Are you talking about when Congress wanted to add the disclaimer? Which, by the way, it's not on this video. The flat earth disclaimer box, it's on every other one I have on flat earth, but it's not on this one for some reason. I don't know. So did flat earth cool? I wasn't aware that it cooled down. Heracles says there's a lot of new blood coming in and new angles of exploration. Merman, gotta go. Liking this live Q&A. I like your style, Bruce. Keep it up. Cheers, guys. Yep, thank you. Merman84. B Water asks, where do we get decent information from how everything works on the flat earth? I mean, I don't know if there's people even definitively claiming the way it does work, but, you know, bringing up multiple different theories. I mean, there's countless videos. I mean, the guys in here could probably give better recommendations than I can, but I'm a big fan of Austin Whitsitt for a lot of the in-depth explanations. And mostly, I mean, just the dismantling of the heliocentric globe gravity theory and relativity. In fact, it'd probably be better to start with that. Like, forget about how things on a flat earth could or would work. you know, look into electromagnetic theories, the whole Tesla versus Einstein thing. I have a podcast on here, Relativity Debunked. You can check that out as well. Because then you'll see how it doesn't work on a globe. Heracles, it was all DARPA? You mean internet? And then Xerox, and then everybody just ripped off Xerox, of course. Rethink revelation of the method. It's a requirement in the Luciferian mindset. And a good question there is, why is it a requirement? Because I've pondered that myself quite endlessly. Like, why is it a requirement, though? Justin states, logic is going to trend. The apocalypse is coming. A revelation. The end of ignorance and complacency. That would be interesting. So if that's the way it was in Tartaria or whatever, with free energy, mostly peace in the world, and then something happened, whether it was the fall, and now we are in what is possibly a dark age, and is an apocalypse revelation going to bring about a new age that is not a dark age? A lot of questions, and then if there are all these countless resets, is it simply all just going to repeat again? Neil states a lot of distractions cooled it down. What do you mean distractions? Like psyops in the news that are not flat Earth related? You know, it would be wild if the whole COVID thing was specifically rolled out to distract from flat Earth. Highly unlikely states Mark is so polite he could be taken for British. I'm British, so I'm allowed to say so. Well, the other thing is, some of them I've watched a lot of Mark's interviews. Sometimes it does get a little heated, and he always he rises to it. Like he doesn't allow himself to get bullied, which is awesome. Mark Sargent said, yes, when the U.S. government decided to step in, we had to readjust. The pandemic changed things. Less conferences for a while, but more content. Mandates rolled back now. Now we have everything. Wow, Dave Scott, Batmam, lest ye forget. You had to bring out the Batmam. Mark said, the only interview that intimidated me beforehand was Piers Morgan. Then I charmed him with politeness. The whole time his producer was in my ear, thinking he could boot me if rude. Man, Piers is such a goof. I was going to do quite a few analyses on Piers. I mean, man, Piers Morgan, I mean, he's definitely up there for Dunning-Kruger championships. I haven't done a Piers analysis yet, but I will. You just had that short one with him, right, Mark? I don't think I saw a long one, unless there was it was a longer segment and they only aired a small piece of it. Highly unlikely. Piers is aggressive. Well done, Mark. I haven't seen that. Piers has some of the worst arguments ever. I mean, just the most illogical nonsense. I mean, Piers. I don't know where I would put Piers in relation to Craig of Fight the Flat Earth, but I mean, they might be neck and neck. Justin stated 33 likes. Illuminati confirmed. Where did the Illuminati confirmed meme come from? Because I remember hearing that 10 years ago all over the place. Illuminati confirmed, and then it kind of disappeared. Mark said, yes, the short one with the astronaut Terry Virts. Oh, yeah, I remember that one. They didn't tell me until last minute that Terry would be there. Everyone wanted me to attack, but they would have cut the US feed. It's kind of wild how, and Matt Walsh said this too, how somehow, and Mark was really good. I forget which one he pointed this out on. Maybe even that one. I forget. Where Mark says, well, military personnel know how to keep secrets. Their job depends on it. It's like, it's so weird. It's like people think, I mean, how are CIA spies recruited? They're obviously not leaking all these secrets because even now there were all these top secret operations even in World War I and World War II that we're just learning about now because the secret was kept for so long. So it's really weird how a lot of coincidence theorists think that it's just impossible for people to keep secrets. It's real weird. I think Mark said there was supposed to be some bigger. I forgot when you said this, maybe 6 months ago or last year. There was going to be some big TV show, Mark, and then they canceled it or something because you made too many good points because they just wanted to make Flat Earth look stupid. Was that what happened? Mark said, yep, I pointed out that Terry was a full bird colonel. You don't make that rank without knowing how to shut up. It's so weird. I mean, this is children's level basics. The fact that you even needed to point that out, I mean, it's just mind shocking. Just the level of goofery where it's even necessary for you to point that out. I mean, this is, we're living in wild times, man. We are living in wild times. I mean, even the lowly grunts know how to shut up when needed, you know? So it's kind of weird. Rich said, have you done a logical analysis of Witsit Gets It versus Leo Phyllis debate on modern day debate yet? I started it. Leo is so painful. He's actually tougher than Craig because he doesn't really bring the entertainment value. So, yeah, Leo is tough. Leo is so tough. I'll probably try to do it with the new system, but he'd probably break the system. I mean, it is rough. Leo is so rough. I mean, this is a guy where I just don't know how he doesn't have a mental disability. I mean, he was openly admitting he doesn't understand anything that Witsit was saying. So, I mean, how do you even? It's just tough. I mean, he openly admitted he didn't understand pretty much anything that Witsit was saying. So Mark said Piers was just looking for a fight. He asked me if I was calling Terry a lot. Yeah, that was funny. Hoping for a schoolyard fight. Terry played it very cool. Piers is one of the goofiest guys out there. I mean, this guy, he's just an ostentatious goof. He's not a regular goof. I mean, he's just yeah. I don't know how anybody manages to not just destroy Piers in a non-polite fashion. I mean, the Ben Shapiro debate on gun control was hilarious, and it was weird because it's almost like Ben intentionally held back a lot. Like, there's so much you can throw into Piers' face, with the murder rates skyrocketing every place that bans guns, etc., etc. But Heracles said, Bruce, you should do Professor Park's PhD on Witsit's In the Field show. You should do, you mean analyze I forgot the name of the guy, but yeah, there's quite a few videos that were sent to me. Base truther, that meme came around the same time Flat Earth exploded. Illuminati confirmed. A lot of popular YouTubers at the time were making videos making fun of conspiracy theorists. There was even a game called 420 Blaze It. Well, you know what's curious, though, is all the making fun of conspiracy theorists until, the scoreboard is just a complete blowout between conspiracy theorists and coincidence theorists, authority worshipping cultists. Because the Illuminati confirmed thing might have started as a joke, but then everybody was kind of, because it got so obvious with the, Super Bowl halftime shows and the music videos. Because back in the 90s, it was rare to see some of this Illuminati occult symbolism. Like, it was here and there, but they just went. I would say, if I had to guess, and Mark, you can chime in here too, because you've been looking at conspiracies for a long time. Was it around 2012 where they just went full blown in your face occult Illuminati symbolism everywhere at all times? Mark said, you don't have the wiki entry on this live chat, but I'd bet money it will be there tomorrow morning. Flat Earth, by the way, was the reason why all those wiki entries exist. They started with us. Neil says the hand signals was, yeah, Mark Reed is nuts. Yeah, that modern. So I've said this so many times because people have asked me to moderate debates. I can't do that in a non efficient manner because if people debating, if they don't even know basic English definitions, like if they're not even on a preschool, first grade English level, like Craig obviously isn't, how can you do a debate? Because then you're just going to be running in circles the whole time because some of these guys don't even know basic definitions of words, let alone what the scientific method is, let alone what logical fallacies are. So, I'm a fan of, I won't say I'm a fan of Steven Crowder. I'm a fan of Steven Crowder's introduction in his Change My Mind segments, where he had the definitions of the key words that were integral to the topic at hand, and he would have the other person read the definition from Webster or whatever the dictionary was. So that way, they would look really stupid if they tried to argue the basic definition, which sometimes they did, and then they looked really stupid. But at least you can preempt a certain amount by having the definitions from the outset. And then what other people have suggested, also from the headphones, there should be at least some kind of an electric shock or train horn or something when they keep interrupting, because that gets kind of annoying when goofs constantly interrupt. They need to have some kind of painful reminder to not interrupt, or if they spam the same fallacy that's been clearly explained, and possibly also they need to get hit with fines, like every fallacy is $20. So I mean, Craig would go bankrupt quick. Mark Sargent, yes, 2012 symbolism seemed to ramp up and it makes some sense. The internet was finally at full strength, time to go for it and move forward with Act 3. Had to happen sometime. Riz says, I mean, I don't know what Mark Reed's problem is. Even if you took away his globe, he still has a head. Finn, I asked AI if the earth was flat. It wasn't happy. Yeah, this is why I had to develop my own AI, because all of these pre-built AIs, they are so politically slanted. It's insane. I mean, even use the word conspiracy, it'll go haywire trying to explain it away without actually explaining it away, of course. It just keeps saying, no, there's no actual evidence. And then you can actually have a conversation and cite the evidence from mainstream sources, and it'll still say, oh, that wasn't conclusive, but this consensus is that the conspiracy is not true or whatever. Yeah, mainstream AI is painful. All right, I'm going to be wrapping this up pretty soon. So, final round of questions, but big thanks to Mark Sargent here for joining us, one of the OGs of Flat Earth. Riz says that would be a great live stream. Try to convince mainstream AI. Well, mainstream AI will just cycle because it's not real AI. I think most people know that. I mean, if you used a real AI, like some of them are being developed, but I don't know if you those aren't public access. Heracles says there was a jailbreak to chat AI that allowed you to get answers uncensored, only to an extent, because that jailbreak just circled around limiters in certain topics. But for example, scientific flat earth evidence, it's even with the jailbreak, you're not going to convince the AI that, for example, the so-called Eddington eclipse data was fraudulent. Even if you start citing proof of that, it'll auto cycle back to the mainstream position, or academia still concludes that relativity is true or whatever. You're not going to be able to beat it because it's not real AI. Mark Sargent, happy to be spending time with you fine people. I think OG stands for old guy or older guy, not obviously gay, which is fine. All God's children, not judging. Old guy stands for original gangsta, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, I'm not a young guy myself, but if are there any young guys in here who know what OG actually stands for? What's the first usage of OG? I would like to know that. Let me look that up. So dictionary.com says OG is short for original gangster or original gangsta. It is a slang term for someone who's incredibly exceptional, authentic, or old school. OG was originally used in gang culture, but it is now used as a general term to praise someone who is an expert at something. And gang, I wonder what year gang culture. I mean, are we talking 90? Oh, 70s. Wow. Okay, here we go. Webster Dictionary. According to an essay by Steve Champion and Anthony Ross, former members of the Crips street gang in LA, the initialism OG was first used by the Crips in the early 70s. Wow, I would have guessed 90s or 80s. This is from The Making of an OG, Transcending Gang Mentality, written in 2006. There was also the OG album by Ice-T in 1991 that got it even more popularized. So, early 70s, wow, interesting. We're all learning something today. Mark, word to Big Bird. I have so much street cred. That you do, Mark Sargent. That you do. Based Truther, do you think some of the biggest YouTube channels are agents of some kind? That's a good question for Mark as well. He knows a lot of these. He knows a lot of all these flat earth people. Mark probably knows everybody in the flat earth community. Mark says, nah, I don't think you can be an agent and still make flat earth content. Flat earth is so tough to fake. Something in the eyes. We sniff them out every time at the conferences. Well, Mark, let me counter that with this. Doesn't every movement get co-opted by bad actors or agents? I mean, everything from Jonestown to, I mean, some would even argue Waco. Pretty much the hippie movement. I mean, was even everything that started off pure and grassroots. It seems like every movement is co-opted and infiltrated, and then kind of set up to burn down. I mean, even MAGA, obviously. Yeah, Finn, if you want to have some fun with AI, don't ask it flat out questions like going to the moon or did Oswald killed Kennedy. Ask it questions like you could lead it with what was the Gulf of Tonkin incident? Why did it occur? What is a false flag operation in history? Or are governments always honest? And then you can lead it from there. So then, if you want to have some fun with it, and then when you get to modern stuff, it's like, oh no, it's widely accepted this. But then you could say, but wait, didn't you just say that throughout history there have been shady actions done by governments? And then it'll spiral pretty funny. Mark Sargent says, I agree. Everything else has some infiltration, but for whatever reason, we haven't seen it. And for me, it's been 9 years. I'd call it out if I saw it. We're a really suspicious group. Well, also, is 9 years that long? That might not be a long enough time. I don't know. I mean, it is getting pretty popular, though, so who knows? I mean, I think I actually have the opposite theory. I think you've heard me say this on multiple podcasts, Mark. I think the anti flat earthers might be agents intentionally defending the globe so poorly as to increase flat earth membership to cause more destabilization of society, leading to an easier way to to facilitate a one world government or new world order due to the destabilization. Because if you lose, average people probably still have a certain amount of faith in the establishment, in the institutions. Dave Begatka in the house, Tea Party. Yeah. Just in 2014, still no scientific evidence to support the globe. Mark Sargent. The thing with controlled op is that eventually you have to go off road and turn it somewhere else. We've been actively looking anti-flat earth people, yes. Backfires on them, though. Anti-flat earth adds to metrics. Justin meant 2024, still no scientific evidence to support the globe. Hey, Dave, I need to do a podcast with Dave as well. Got to get that scheduled for the Stephen Avery case. But, Dave, do you have any thoughts on flat earth? Mark says, I wish we had 1,000 more trolls. What do you mean trolls where? Trolls in here or in general? There was one guy, I forgot his name. I think it was Saka something, Toot Saka or something. This guy was hilarious in here. Rich says, Craig is so bad, so emotional. Or so he appears to be. I don't know. Again, maybe it's mental disability and mental health issues combined. Or maybe he's just this phenomenal actor who can pull off going full retard where nobody else, I mean, nobody's really been able to pull that off. But, I mean, Craig is at minimum a Dunning-Kruger pioneer. At minimum. Heracles says, yeah, where's Tutsaka's been? Tutsaka been? I don't know. Dave Begatka on Flat Earth, I do not know. Justin says, fight the Flat Earth name screams anti-science. Well, yeah, I mean, clearly there's no objectivity, because if that's his goal, if Flat Earth turns out to be true, what are you going to do with a name like Fight the Flat Earth? Like, if he had the name Fight Disinfo or something, then he could at least pose some kind of something, at least attempt to be objective. Heliosexual pervert. Finn, Jim Morrison's father was Admiral Morrison, the man that kicked off the Bay of Tonkin false flag that caused the worst war apart from all the other wars. I don't even remember that. I gotta do a podcast on that. Pitch, Lumen, Mindshock, what do you think about Einstein, data relativity, claiming the Earth is equally valid, saying motion or still, so half of the flat Earth claim, curve in motion, is granted to Bible Earth? Well, I wouldn't take anything Einstein said about anything seriously. Einstein was a goof. I know it's going to trigger some people. Einstein's a goof. That's why he was always sticking his tongue out, because he knew it was all a big joke. I mean, some of his statements, not just that one, he had a couple of quotes where he admitted that if Miller was correct, then all of this was wrong. Like, he had so many quotes where he basically blew the whistle on himself without blowing the whistle. It was like a wink wink. Riz, gotta run. Thanks for the great streamers. Take care. Yep, take care, Riz. Dave says, I still think Tutsaka is Craig. Yeah, he might be. Mark's gotta run. Yep, Mark. Yeah, I'll set up something with Mark. We definitely gotta do a convo. Take care, Mark. Finn says, all wars are banker wars. Yeah, pretty much. Masters and controllers, the powers that be. Either the bankers or the people above the bankers. Banksters. So yeah, I'm gonna wrap this up as well. So final questions here. I don't know if we even went over that many flat Earth questions. It's just kind of like a chill chat. Geotolomy, Ruby Ridge is in the works. I've been working on that podcast for a number of years. It's a tough one. Just, oh, Tutsaka in the house. Nice to come in and immediately hear my name being called. Praise be. I don't know. Some people think you're Craig of Fight the Flat Earth, Tutsaka. I don't know. You got any questions on Flat Earth? We're finally doing a Flat Earth Q&A, Tutsaka. So if you have any specific questions, I'm actually wrapping it up in a few minutes. So yeah, Dave Scott, see you soon. So yeah, if you have any specific Flat Earth questions, Tutsaka, feel free. That's not a question, Tutsaka. Are you psychologically projecting again? You really want to end this stream with your psychological projections. Sarah says, I wish I would have known. I just got here. I'm probably going to set up an interview with Mark, and then I got to do Eddie Bravo's podcast as well. And I have a special guest, probably Sunday. Former professor, high-level academic, top Ivy League schools, worked at a national lab. We'll be talking epistemology, conspiracies, flat Earth, all the fun stuff. Well, this is a Q&A, Tutsaka, so I didn't say you did have a question. I asked you if you did. Come on, man. Can we at least get into a first grade English comp level here? Finn said, we're like ants walking across the floor of a great cathedral. The world is more mysterious than we can ever imagine. Dave McGowan's weird scenes inside the canyon blew them all out of the water. Rip. Sarah asks, how do we know when you're going to go live? That's tough, Sarah. Sometimes I put up a heads up, a few hours heads up, and then maybe a 10 minutes heads up in the community tab here on the YouTube channel, in the Mindshock community tab. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes I just roll it like now. So I'll try to do one, a couple times a week. I'll try to do something a couple times a week. And then obviously I do have premieres going a lot. I think there's... Yeah, I try to exist outside of time and space to not be limited by, by 24 hours in one day. Yeah, if you have the notifications enabled, that helps, but a lot of people say they don't get them anyway. So, final round of questions. Anybody got any questions or a topic? Final topic of the evening in our first ever specific Flat Earth Q&A. Not that you can't ask Flat Earth questions in generic Q&As, you can as well. Sarah is binging Jean Benet. Yeah, good luck. That's one of the most comprehensive podcast series I've done. Obviously, the most comprehensive of anything else out there. And believe it or not, I'm still not done. There's a couple more rabbit holes I haven't even gone down yet. And so, yeah. The other thing you can try, Sarah, just comment more on the videos. It seems YouTube algorithm goes on, like if you're subscribed to 10 channels, but you only comment on 8 of them, I guess the other, you comment more on certain channels and not other channels. I mean, I don't know. The YouTube algorithm is weird. Doesn't seem to have rhyme or reason there. I'll take one more question or topic to go over before we call this a night. Anybody got something interesting? Tsutsaka might have something interesting, no? Rich says, can gas pressure exist without a container? That's actually an interesting one. I don't think I can do that quickly, but here's what I'll say about that. There's no real way to know how the system would even work. And the nature of different containers. Because whether the Earth is a globe or flat, whatever, whether there's a firmament or not, even some of these spheres, like the thermosphere, whatever, these claimed spherical barriers of sort. The claim is that, whatever, gravity has an effect on them or whatever. So, and it's kind of weird because the globe earthers don't argue this where they could. So there could be a container we don't know about that is affecting gas pressure differentials, or there's another element in space. Because even if this is a globe, that doesn't mean people have actually gone far into space. So what are the exact properties of space? Is it not really a vacuum anyway, regardless of the shape of the Earth? I don't know why globe earthers don't argue that, but that's what I would say about it. Obviously, I don't claim anything is true or untrue. I'm not making any positive claims, but again, with some of these false dichotomies, there could be a container even with a spherical Earth. Finn, blessings to everyone from London. Blessed are the cracked, for they shall let in the light. Thanks for your show. You're my new teacher. Thanks, Finn. Yep, thanks everybody. So, yeah, I'll be doing more of these as well, but watch out on Sunday. I'll probably drop the epistemology podcast with a special guest, and I don't think you guys will be disappointed, and I'll be setting up more interviews as well for the following couple weeks. Try to get more and more different types of people involved in a lot of these conversations. Heracles, no, I have not looked into that unless I forgot everybody's name. Because I don't always remember the names. But, yeah, check you guys out next time. Hope everybody enjoyed another Mindshock Q&A. Got plenty more to come. If you want to help support the podcast, you can donate to our PayPal. Just check the link in the description. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Hit that bell for notifications. You can also become a YouTube member right here on YouTube. Help support the channel that way. Like and share Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, Patreon. Questions, comments, theories, thoughts, suggestions, rebuttals, debunkings of any kind, leave them in the comment section. This is Bruce McGuire signing off. Catch you guys next time.